Welcome to Charlotte Execs After Dark Relationships, Business Talk, Real Life with your host, Timothy Motivation Jones. Charlotte Execs is an organization of professional men and women in and around the Charlotte, North Carolina area who come together, put down the work, and enjoy life. Between live events, members meet on a group call and it's recorded for your enjoyment. Let's listen in.
Good evening. This is Timothy Jones, and I'm trying this last minute stuff to get everybody on the call and acclimated and get these numbers together. Hopefully everyone can hear me well. This is our third call entitled Women Who Stopped Giving a Damn. I'm going to unmute everybody so we can kind of get some vocals on who's in the room. I'm going to unmute everybody. Anybody there? Hello.
Yes. Hello, this is Tina DeJarnus.
Great to have you. Anybody else there?
This is
Hello.
I'm here.
Yes, this is Renita.
Renita?
Renita, yes.
Glad to have you, Renita. Anybody else?
This is Nikki. I'm here.
Did they say two Nickies at the same time?
No, this is T.
T. Glad to have you, T. Nikki. Anybody else there? Oh, I see other numbers.
This is Carnita.
Carnita, good to have you again. We got any brothers on the line?
This is Stacy.
Huh?
What's going on, Timothy?
What's up? Who this is?
It's Ed.
What's going on, Ed?
Not much.
Glad you're on the line. Any other brothers on the line?
You got Charlie.
What's up, Charlie?
Saturday.
Any other brothers on the line?
Peace, brother. How you doing?
What's that, Kwame?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other men or women on the line?
Marianne.
Say it again, please.
Marianne.
Marianne, glad to have you. Anybody else? Before we close these calls off, we see calls still coming in. Pittsburgh.
Dawn.
Dawn. Glad to have you, Dawn. Atlanta.
Thank you.
Who was that?
Nautica.
Nautica. One of the callers tonight. Glad to have you. Stacy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Stacy. Kim. I don't know if she's in yet. Nikki.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. All righty. Let me find Stacy's number, and we're finna tune everybody else out. So,
Nita.
Who is that?
Benita.
Stacy.
Benita. Glad to have you.
Thank
to
you.
have you. Anybody else before I mute these calls? You want to say anything?
Hi, Dachelle's here.
Who's that? Dachelle?
Dachelle. Yes, hi.
Hi, glad to have you. I see somebody else coming in. We're going to mute these calls and, get back to some people later on and let these women tell their stories. We like to get straight to the point, not waste too much time. But we're 5 minutes in now, so let's move forward. Let's mute everybody, and we're going to move on to Stacy's story. Mute everybody. Unmute. Stacy, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, ma'am. How are you doing?
I'm good, and yourself?
I'm doing great.
Great.
Me and you were talking earlier, and I just know you have a powerful story that definitely can touch a lot of women and about what you went through, what how you've overcome. But before we get to that, in regards to last week's call, you wanted to touch on some things because I want folks to be honest and be real, about things they liked, things they didn't like. And can you touch on some things from last Friday's call about, the things men didn't like about women? Can you touch on a few of those things that
Sure.
you were thinking about?
So I thought the call was very interesting. At times I thought it was a bit comical. I learned a lot, but then at the same token, I started thinking, I felt like a lot of times we say we don't like this and we don't like that, whether it's the man or the female speaking. And I just wanted to know, at what point are you willing to invest in that other person and expose them to the things that you like or teach them instead of just, cutting them off and saying, oh, I don't want to be bothered with them because they don't do this a certain way. What if someone comes and meets you and it's something that you don't like, but you was really feeling that person, but you never knew that they didn't like what it was that you did, and then they just cut you off. Mm-hmm. So I was just wondering, I never really heard anyone say that they was willing to teach that person or expose them to different things of life, especially if it was something that was an interest of yours.
Right.
So that was one thing. And then another thing I just didn't hear too much of, I don't know. It was just very broad. A lot of stuff I felt like it really didn't apply to me. I was curious with the age range of the guys, as to me being a younger female, like what type of women were they really dating? So I don't know. It was good. It was informative because I'm always curious. I know guys aren't wired like us women. But it was just curious to understand and to see the things that the way that they think and to see how they actually speak of us.
Right. Any of you brothers, I see, you three brothers that were on the call, 3 of the 4. Y'all got anything to say about that?
Well, this is Charlie. I would say that he did the first part, which was what we had positive about the relationship at the first call, and the second one was the other side of it. So you probably just missed the first part.
Okay.
No, I was on both calls. The first one, I'm not gonna lie, was a bit taken back. A lot of stuff that was discussed on the first call, I really did not agree with. Out of some of you all, only probably one person I really could relate to what he was saying.
Like what? What could you relate to?
The fact of some of the stuff that Tim was saying, some of the stuff that the other guys were saying. Like I was talking to Tim earlier, and we was talking about the whole open up the door, and I forgot what the guy's name was. I want to say, was his name Andre? But I think he was saying that if a woman didn't open the door for him, once he opened the door, then he wouldn't do it no more. So I explained to Tim, my father always held the door for me. He always opened the door. If he slammed on brakes, he put his arm out. But he never taught me to open the door for him. So do you just automatically shut down from a female because she doesn't do something? Or do you guide her and say, hey, look, I like this type of gesture right here, and teach her, show her, because you never know what that person's background is or what they were actually taught.
True. I disagree with him, too. And you're supposed to give without looking to be reciprocated anyhow. So
right.
That's my thing.
No, I agree.
We were all just expressing ourselves.
Yeah. Okay. Any other brother want to chime in before I let Stacey proceed with her story? Ed and Kwame, y'all there. Y'all got anything to say on that? I guess not. And y'all are unmuted, right. So y'all not saying anything, so I guess not. Nothing else to say. All righty. Anything else you want to say about the call, Stacey, or we're going to move on to your story?
Oh, no, I'm fine. I think I've said enough.
Awesome. Okay, Stacey, so this call is about the women. The women, and I see the title could have, been misconstrued. People taking it the wrong way. It's not about anybody who's bitter. It's not about women who are just upset at men or anything like that. This could have taken place 10, 15 years ago, but I want to educate men on why she stopped giving a damn. So if they're in a relationship right now, this could give you some pointers like, hey, man, if you don't correct this thing, the woman you're with right now could eventually and soon stop giving a damn and leave you. So we want to educate men in that realm with real stories for women in the group. So, Stacey, this particular relationship you're talking about, can you tell us how did it start? How did you, how you meet this person? Mm-hmm.
All right. So my particular relationship that I'm speaking in reference to occurred about 7 years ago. Since then, I will say that I have been single. He was overseas. My aunt was in the Army, so you know how you kind of do the pen pal thing, and we got to know each other, and he would start to come home, what they call R&R, a few weeks at a time, and then he'll ship back. So at that point, he was 10 years older than me. We started talking. We started vibing. He was actually divorced, and he had 3 kids. So we got closer, and then we started really talking, and, we just really started building a relationship. So I helped him out a lot. Within a relationship, everything was great. He was overseas, so basically he made me power attorney over his stuff. Even though I knew him, I was very loyal to him because being overseas and being contracted, he was making 6 figures, and it was tax-free money, and I had access to all his money. I was basically playing a wife, literally without a ring or the actual title. I would go in there, I would make his child support payments, I would do everything that a wife would do for her husband because I felt like I had to prove to him that I was a good woman. Long story short, he was going to move to the States. Okay. He was moving back to the States, so I started looking for houses. We talked about marriage. We're going to get a house built. So I'm looking for houses, going house shopping, just doing the things that every woman would just really feel like a queen, like, gosh, I'm really holding him down. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Life is good. So as they started they started sending people back home. He came back home, and we ended up not getting a house because they felt it was a second residency. So we said, okay, let's live together first in an apartment, and then we're going to buy a house next year. So I began to notice that he started to shut down. I didn't know what was wrong with him. Like, he wouldn't talk to me. At times, he looked like a different person. Like, songs, we could be riding in the car, and he would hear a song, and he would just shut down, or he would start crying. I remember one time we were eating McDonald's, and we were talking, and I said something that his ex-wife used to say to him, but I didn't know that. And he balled his food up, and he got really mad. And he got out the car, and I didn't know what was wrong with him. I was embarrassed. I'm trying to get him in the car, trying to cover things up. I remember times when we were at the house, and I was scared to go to sleep because I didn't know what he was going to do. He would just shut down. He wouldn't talk to me. And then all of a sudden, when he did talk to me, he became very abusive. And everything that I did and said reminded me of his ex-wife. So at that point, I paid for everything that she ever did to him because she cheated on him, and he came home and found her in the bed with somebody else.
Wow. So he didn't see any of the resemblance early on before this?
No. And I guess because he was overseas, he's making money, life is good. I'm a good person. He told me I was everything he ever wanted. I wasn't the nagging type. I don't like to argue. I'm a communicator. I like to write stuff down and come back and digress and talk about it. We never had arguments. It was weird, and I could never figure him out. But when certain songs came on, it would trigger something in him. Or if I said something, it was like he would snap, like he didn't even look like himself. And it was just really weird, and I just tried my best, to just keep trying to understand him. And then I realized he started talking down to me. He was telling me I was nothing, I was a liar, only wanted him for his money, never asked him for anything, but he always gave me everything. Anything I needed, never asked, but just made, to say, hey, I'm about to start school. He bought me laptops, paid for my car notes, but I never asked for that stuff. I've never been the female to want a guy to do for me because I felt like I always had my own. And it got really bad. And one day he decided he wanted to get physical. And Tim, I tell you, I had this out of body experience. He's like 6'4", I'm 5'4", and he's strong. And he thought he was going to jump on me, and I jumped up so fast, I didn't even feel like myself. And I was ready to just fight him down to the ground. And it actually scared him because he's never seen me act that way. So he left. So fast forward, packed everything up. I had nowhere to go. I was living out of my car.
Okay, hold on. Let's back up for a second.
Okay.
So where were you when this fight took place? You were living with him?
We were living together. So every day, we were living together. Every day when I came home, because he wasn't working. He still had money from working overseas, but he had a CDL license. I was working at the hospital. Every day when I came home, he would leave. So it was like a sigh of relief. And see, in our apartment, we had an extra lock. So I would always lock the door, and I would sleep as much as I could because I knew he was coming home in the middle of the night. He couldn't get in unless I took the lock off the door. So I would take the lock. He would call me because he was locked out. So I had to get up and unlock the door. And for that night, I would just not go to sleep. It got so bad to where I thought about things of how to hurt him, what I was going to do to him because I was tired of him.
What did you think about doing to him? Did you think about poisoning him?
A couple of times, I was going to put some grits on the stove, keep it all the way real. I was going to heat some grits up. I was going to catch him one day on the couch. I was going to throw some grits on him. I knew it was a gun in the house. I knew it was locked up, but I was scared. I'm scared to hold a gun. That kind of makes me shake just thinking to touch one. So I knew I couldn't hold a gun. I wasn't going to go that extent to kill him, but I wanted to torture him, to let him know how he is torturing me on the inside. A lot of times.
Did you want to maybe wound him with a gunshot? Not kill him, but wound him or something?
No, just burn him with some grits or some hot grease is what I wanted to do because basically that's like attempted murder because you can get a 3rd degree, 1st degree. You can get a severe burn from that. And the only thing that kept me was God. That's all I knew. I didn't have any family. My mom kind of disowned me because she didn't like him, and she didn't like the fact I was with him. So I literally had nobody but God.
And where were you at? Where were you at when this was
I was here in Charlotte. I'm originally from D.C. I was here in Charlotte. I was young. I was about 26. About 26, 27. I was in my late 20s, very young. And to this day, I still don't know how I got out of that. And I know it was nothing but the grace of God.
You said he left, so y'all were living together.
And we were living together.
He left.
He would leave. No, he would leave every night. He would leave and go to his cousin's house, probably go sit in a car, but he would come back home about 2 o'clock in the morning. So it had me enough time to get sleep between 5 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the morning. And I knew him like clockwork. A lot of people don't realize we create patterns. So you start to notice, I noticed this pattern. So I knew when I had to go to sleep good because I knew he couldn't get an apartment, and then to make sure that I was able to stay up during the night while he was sleeping, that he wouldn't hurt me.
So he wouldn't hurt you. So when did you decide, I have to leave here? I have to leave this place. When did you decide that? What triggered that? What made you come to that conclusion?
And actually, to be honest, it was all over a bill. One day he just came in and I knew I had to get out. That week prior, I had really started praying. I started fasting, really just getting deep into church. Nobody at church knew what I was going through. I just kept everything private. And I just started praying. I just said, Lord, I don't know how you're going to get me out of this, but I need to get out, and I just told God I'll just rededicate myself, just talking to God and just really being intimate and just seeking God like never before, and I just remember that day like it was yesterday. I came home and he threw my stuff everywhere. And it was all because of a bill. And when we found out about the bill, it wasn't even our cable bill. It was our next door neighbor's cable bill. They had mixed it up. And it got really physical that night. And he just threw my stuff everywhere. And I just packed all I could pack in my car. I had a Toyota Camry. I packed it. I just literally packed it out. And I just cried, and I just had nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. I couldn't even go back to my mom's house. She wouldn't let me in. I had nowhere to go. And I had the...
I'm sorry. Somebody just sent me a text and asked a question. Go ahead and ask that question, brother.
I was wondering how long had it been since your ex left his wife? Do you have enough time to grieve or to get over it?
He didn't. No, he didn't. And, you know, me looking in on the situation, he should have never gotten a relationship with nobody. I want to say maybe a couple of years, if that. Because even, and now that I even think about it, why his divorce was just being final when we started talking. So he had time. He didn't grieve none of that. I mean, like, and that wasn't the first time she had really cheated on him, and she would degrade him and belittle him as a man.
Wow. And what was your second question?
My second question was, did you have a source of income besides him?
Oh, I worked at the hospital. I've been in the hospital for 15 years. So that's just, I never relied on him for anything. But my mom always taught me you never get anything in your name with another man unless it's your husband. And that's why I let him put everything in his name. And it was so easy for me to walk away from it and not financially get the repercussions from it because nothing was in my name. I let him put everything in his name. Unfortunately, when all of that happened at that time, someone had messed up my taxes. So my wages were being garnished from the IRS from taxes from years ago that I knew nothing about. So I literally had everything to hit me all at once when it all happened.
That's kind of yeah.
It was so bad that I was backed up in a corner, and the only thing I knew to do, Tim, was to breathe. I didn't know anything else to do but to breathe. My back was so close in the corner. I just didn't even know myself anymore. Found a friend who I thought was a friend. I was able to sleep on her couch. Some nights I slept with her 5-year-old. And I stayed there for a couple of months. You know, within that time, he still continued to try to reach out to me and would cuss me out, you know, tell me he's looking for me. And he was still harassing me, but he didn't know where I was at. And all along, I was around the corner from him.
Wow. Somebody else has a question. Go ahead, brother. Kwame. You just text me a question. I believe that was Kwame. Are you there, brother? Well, the question says, was he active duty or a contractor?
He was a contractor.
I'm not sure why.
He actually, I guess I do know why he asked that. He probably wanted to know if he was suffering from post-traumatic syndrome, and I bet that's probably why he said that. Meaning if he was active, he's probably killed somebody or dodged bullets or something like that. But even though he was contracted, he was in an active war zone. So he would tell me about nights where he had to wear helmets and vests, and he had to evacuate and go to the hole or go to this place. So even though he was contracted, he was in a war zone.
Okay. All right. You can continue your story. So you said they came to a point to where you feel like you almost lost your mind, and you were right around the corner from him when you got away.
Yeah, I was right around the corner. I was scared to death. Basically, even though I got away, I was still living in fear. Certain things that would happen would trigger. If I would hear certain stuff that reminded me of him, I would get flashbacks it took me a while before I could even go back to that McDonald's, because every time I went, I still look at that same parking lot, that same parking space where the car was at, where everything happened at. And it took me a while before I could even go back there to kind of, because stuff like that doesn't go away. And you have to really go through the motion and basically really dig down deep, you know, and to find yourself. And, you know, like I told you earlier, I'm single by choice, you know, because I was not going to allow any man or anyone to pay for what he did to me, because obviously I paid for what his wife did to him.
That's a mature statement right there. And you said he was abusive and verbal. I mean, how verbally?
Verbally, like it was bad. Like he would call me, and I knew he was calling. I'm like, oh God, what does he want? I wouldn't even answer the phone, and he would call back. I know you see me calling. What the hell are you doing? What the F is wrong with you? Get your ass back here. Like he would talk to me like that. And he'd be like, you ain't nothing. Don't no man want you. You ain't no woman. You stupid. Like stuff like that, he would say. And I was mouthy, you know, like I just wasn't taking it. Like we would go back and forth. And I felt like the reason why I really stuck in there, because I didn't have my ducks in a row to move out, because I had really allowed him to take control over everything. And I wasn't diligent with my own affairs. And then when the time came for me to really escape, I really didn't have one. I had one, but I didn't have one. And I felt like if I had my stuff in order and got away when I needed to, it wouldn't have been as hard.
If a young lady's listening right now is in a similar situation that you were in, same situation in regards to not having her ducks in a row, he's, you know, got things in his name and kind of somebody sent a text say you're a financial hostage. What would you tell her that's listening right now that was in a similar situation? You know, she hasn't got to the point necessarily where she's about to throw Ritz on him. Hopefully she don't get no charge. But what would you tell a woman who's getting verbally abused and just kind of was stuck? Similar, kind of is stuck to, you know, kind of how you were.
First thing I can honestly say is to seek God. That's it. And there's no magic answer to that. You have to seek God. When you seek God, God will show you. First of all, seek God. And when you experience the love of God and what he has for you, then you know what true love is. When you seek God and he hears your cry, he's going to come out and help you. And you can't sit there and try to figure out how it's going to happen. You have to allow him to do that for you. You have to ask God, Lord, what is it that I need to get right now? I know I put myself in this situation, but what is it that I need to get right now? You know, I'm coming to you. I'm crying out to you. Please make a way for me. But you have to know within your heart that you're ready to walk away. You can't walk away and go back. You have to walk away and be done with it. But most and foremost, you have to seek God and allow him to make a way. Don't try to figure it out, because a lot of times when we try to say, like with me, I said, okay, I'm going to stay in here long enough. I'm going to stack my money up. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And all I had to do was just really clearly cry out to God and seek God. And when I started seeking God and doing what I was supposed to do and be faithful and seek his kingdom, everything lined up. I kid you not, everything lined up. And I never looked back. Even though we're friends to this day, but I never stopped seeking God. I mean, I woke up every morning and I prayed and I read that Bible. I got on prayer calls. I had people praying for me. I prayed without ceasing. As long as I had breath in my mouth and I was awake, I was praying. And I didn't even get holy. You know, like some people take prayer to another level. Talk to God. He know what you're going to say. You don't have to get all thou Father. Yes, you do have to acknowledge him and who he is, but just talk to him, because he already knows. And you have to seek him, and you have to be ready in your heart to leave, and not to leave to go back, but to leave and to actually walk away.
I hear that. That's good. I'm going to open up the lines to see if anybody has anything to say or a comment or question for you. Feel free, people. Anybody?
I applaud your strength, and that was very encouraging that you saw that, recognized it, and now going to go forward a better woman, you know.
Thank you.
I have a question. Can you hear me, Timothy?
Sure.
Yes, I can. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I guess I heard you say that, you know, you guys are still friends today. Are you referring to the gentleman and you're still friends with him today? If that's the case, how are you able to be friends with him today after everything you guys went through?
Sure, great question. So what I had to do was I stepped back from everything. I cut everything off, meaning it was just me and God. I had to actually not heal for myself, but I had to heal from him. And I had to really digest that relationship so I didn't pick the same person but different body. So to make it long story short, his mother was abusive to him. His mom always abused him. She always beat it on him. So it went deeper than his ex-wife. It went all the way to his mother. We lost touch, you know, and he came back. He found me. And when he found me, I'm not going to lie, my heart dropped. And I said, oh, my God, I can't believe this man found me again. But I also, prior to me finding him, I had to realize I cannot live a slow death and hold grudges against anybody. I can't, because I'm missing out on my blessings. And I'm missing out becoming the woman that God had called me to be. So I had to forgive him, and I had to forgive myself. And I had to realize love didn't hurt me. Love is a beautiful thing. He hurt me. But he hurt me because of his upbringing. He didn't know how to handle a woman because his first opposite sex relationship was his mother, and she beat him. And he had a lot of anger in himself. And I had to realize that. And me realizing that didn't allow me to hold grudges to him. And in order for me to receive the blessings that God had for me, I cannot be stagnant in myself. And my testimony, my test was a testimony for somebody. And if I held grudges onto him and not really dissected what I went through, I wouldn't be able to sit here and tell my story because I'd still be a bitter woman.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, that is good.
Anybody else? Is that somebody else got a comment right there?
Stacey, this is Nikki. I would just like to say that your story was very moving. I really like the fact that you used God to get you through that situation, which a lot of people want to say that that they're actually going to God, but not really doing it. So in your case, you actually really did it, and he got you through that situation. So I just want to applaud you on that because that was a blessing, and I'm praying for you over here because I'm just like in tears almost because it's just like things like that do happen to us. And a lot of women don't have the courage to come out and talk about it. So I just commend you.
Thank you.
Anybody else for the comment? Somebody just texted me a comment. Go ahead and answer that live.
Answered it.
Go ahead.
She answered. I was still surprised I was still surprised she was friends with old boy. That's all I'll say.
That's Kwame said he's still surprised.
Why I'm still friends with him? You know what, Kwame? Because God is love. I don't hate nobody. I'm not going to block my blessings for nobody to be hated against someone else. And to be honest, he's came back to me. He's apologized. I accept his apology. Will we ever go there and be together again? No. You know, he still displays some of those characteristics. Like even now I try to coach him and, show him different things. And sometimes he don't get it. And when he wants to be defensive, I said, okay, good, I'm done, but we're still friends, and I feel like I've gone so far in life because I wasn't, because I didn't hold a grudge. Sometimes you have to learn how to forget. I might not forget what he's done to me, but I forgive him. And a lot of times we as individuals need to learn that not to hold grudges against people because guess what? Half of them sleeping good at night. And I'm sitting up mad dying internally. My health is going down. I'm stressed out. My hair is falling out, and he over here sleeping very good with a full stomach. I'm not going to hold grudges against nobody, but I'm not going to forget what you did to me. And I'm not going to allow you to have a second chance to mishandle me.
That's right there. Not a second chance. And I don't even think we did the introduction for you, Stacey. If I didn't, I'm sorry. Stacey is 34, single. I've been in the medical field for 15 years. She's also a hairstylist. She's single with no children. She's been single for about 7 years, so she's obviously moved forward, and she's doing very well now. And she got out. So we're glad to hear that story of victory.
Thank you.
And hopefully everyone's listening, whether they're going through it or not, can learn something or just be touched by it. Anybody else got some questions for Stacey before we move on to the next person with their story? Anyone? Okay. Oh, well, Stacey, I'm going to come back to you. So, again, I want to thank you for even taking the time out to share. You didn't have to.
Sure. Thank you.
Appreciate you so much. Kim, are you there?
I am.
Hey, kind of muffled. Hello?
Oh, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. How are you?
I'm doing great.
You're doing great. Kim is 40. She says she's happily single. She puts emphasis on that. She said she has 3 children. 2 of the children, well, they're adults. They're not children, and 1 is a teen. And Kim, you said that the men that you were with, they're chasing you now, right?
Yeah, they're chasing me now. Yeah. But I thought about that, and I did tell Timothy that, I have 4 exes, and I've been with 4 men in the last 20 years, and all of those were very lengthy relationships, but they all came with their own individual challenges. One situation was very similar. Was it Stacey that was just speaking?
Yes.
Not necessarily with the, in the guards, but, I was dating found out to be a drug dealer after a while. I had no idea he was selling drugs when we were together, but I just knew he would take a lot of long trips, and, some trips I actually even went on with him. I'm thinking we're having a very romantic, getaway, and it turned out that those trips were set up to sell, whether it be drugs or guns, or there was a lot of different stuff going on. But he ended up getting 2 years in prison, waiting on like conviction and things of that nature. And obviously, I stuck by him and just kind of tried to be there for him. And at the time I lived in Ohio, and he was in jail in New York because that was the last place he went to go make a delivery and got busted. It's like an undercover sting. And so I, used to drive up to New York several times a year to see him. And towards the end of his stint, I had gotten a call from one of my brothers at the time, and he told me that my nephew, who was locked up at the time, called him and said he saw some pictures of me, and in prison, by the way, that were very inappropriate pictures. And he described the pictures and said, is, Auntie Kim's furniture green and yada, yada, yada. And my brother's, of course, like, yeah, what's going on? And, so my nephew at this point is like wanting to, he actually ended up going to the hole in jail because he got in a fight with somebody. Once he realized those were pictures of me, he got in a fight with the person who had them to get them back. It was just a big mess. And, when my brother called me with the situation, I knew immediately what pictures he was referring to because I had only ever taken pictures like that once, and I had only taken them for one person, the guy that I had been with for 10 years. And so when he got ready to, he called me one day because he's getting ready to get out and transition, and he's wanting to make sure everything was, in place. And I asked him about the pictures, and I remember when we had took those pictures, and even in that moment, I remember being sort of untrusting of that situation, and so we had agreed that we would go get them. This was back in the day when we had the throwaway cameras. We didn't have cell phones to take pictures at that time, but I had, we were supposed to go get the pictures developed together, and one of the little 1 hours you can walk out of there with them yourself, and we had got into an argument at the end of that week, and he threw the camera down and was stepping on it, crushing it, because he was just upset that I wanted to, go with him, and I wanted to do that together. He felt like I should trust him, and so he ended up throwing the camera down, and I thought the way he was stepping on it and and slamming it on the ground, I just initially thought it was destroyed until I got that call from my brother, and then it kind of circled back to, oh my gosh, he got those pictures developed, and so when he called me and we talked, and I asked him about the pictures, and he denied the pictures. He said, no, it wasn't me, and me and his brother never really had a good relationship. So he when I told him I know for a fact these were the pictures, he said, well, it had to be his brother who did it, and he tried to blame it on our relationship, my relationship with his brother, as to why he would do something like that. And I didn't buy it. I just knew deep down the way that he played it off years before, slamming the camera and making it seem like he destroyed it, and never telling me, like years had passed and he had never told me that he got those pictures developed. So I knew he was lying for that reason. And
so these pictures being developed, and I know that you said you wanted to talk about something as fed up with me. I don't know how this is going to play in.
It will.
What did the pictures being developed, what did that do to you internally when you found out other people were looking at you in your private moments?
Wow. It was, as you can imagine, it was crushing. It was crushing on multiple levels because of the distrust and having someone, here it is, I'm thinking, we're in love with each other. We were engaged to be married at the time. I had basically put my life on hold for 2 years waiting on him to get out of jail. I had accepted his discretion as far as, finding out what he had really been doing with his time and how he was making his money. And to find out that he had kept something like that from me and then shared my pictures with the world, basically. That was distraught for me, and all I could think about, because at the time my father was in prison. And so my nephew found them, which was hard enough to have to deal with, but all I kept thinking about was if my father had saw something like that, if that had crossed my father's cell. And I've always had a close relationship with my father, so that, I'm just imagining how crushing that would have been for him, where my nephew got in a fight with somebody. My father would have tried to kill somebody behind that. So I don't think he truly understood the severity of what he did. And of course, he eventually admitted, because of course I didn't accept it. Every time he called, I would hang up the phone. If he wasn't willing to tell me the truth, I would just hang up the phone. And, he was crying and very apologetic, and and at that point in time, I think that when he did it, we weren't where I thought we were, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't have never taken the pictures, but at this particular time, and I'm sure, me waiting on him those years and sort of vesting a lot of that time and going to visit him and being by his side, I think he fell in love with me. But it was just kind of when that came out, it was kind of like one of those mistakes you can't come back from. And so obviously, I left him in the midst of that.
So you left him because of the pictures?
Oh, absolutely.
That was the main reason you left him, because he shared your pictures?
Yeah, absolutely. That was kind of it was the pictures, in addition to the manipulation and the lies that you basically been lying to me all these years. Okay. And you sent my pictures to share with someone, and he lied to me about it. And then he kept lying. It wasn't, it wasn't until I was just like, no, I'm not accepting those lies, that he finally come out with the truth with that situation. But and still to this day, and this has been 5 years since I found out about that. I actually left the state. I left Ohio and moved to North Carolina
because
to get far away from him.
Well,
yeah, because once I decided to leave him, he went from, being Prince Charming. He had got out obviously before I left, and he wasn't accepting the fact that I was leaving him, and so he would show up at my house and make threats. If I can't have you, nobody will, and just do really, really crazy things, be on the side of my house when I came out. And, first he would try to make it very romantically, trying to win me back. One time I got out of class, I was in college at the time, and I come out of class, and my class ended at 12 noon, but I stayed in the lab to work on homework, so I didn't leave school till like 8 o'clock. Now, he knew I got out of school at 12, but when I left and go into the parking deck at 8 o'clock, he was in the parking deck waiting for me to come out. And as I walked to my car, I heard somebody get out of their car and was walking towards me. And when I looked and saw it was him, obviously I'm panicking, because I had already gotten a restraining order on him at that point, because he kept showing up just everywhere I was at, trying to talk to me, trying to convince me. And I was just like, you need to stop. And, it would get physical. At times when I would refuse to talk to him, then he would try to force me.
What do you mean? He would just hit you? How did it get physical?
He would try to force me, like he's going to hold me or keep me there, against my will. One time he showed up at the casino. I was at the casino, and he showed up and tried to keep me on it. Like he pressed the elevator button so that I couldn't, so the doors wouldn't open, and and try to force me to talk to him. And at that point, I was carrying a stun gun with me because of a lot of the stuff he was doing. So I hit him with the stun gun and got the elevator to move, and the security, I guess, saw it on the cameras, and they were waiting for us when the elevator door opened. And so they took him into their custody at that time, and, I got out of that city and back home, but it was just like we were in a whole nother city, so he followed me to a whole nother city to get to that casino. So he just got very irrational.
I wonder how he found out that you were going to be there. Now, what makes you say that you were fed up with you? How does that tie into this?
Well, I realized over a number of years that because, this just happened to be my last relationship. But, there were, relationships that, I won't say were similar, but, there was another abusive relationship, but there was just, an abuse can, come in all kinds of forms. That one was physical, at times, because he drugged me down the steps one time, and, just different things he would do to try and convince me that he loved me. Right. But their other relationships, were violent and abusive in the sense of verbal abuse. They were abusive in the sense of cheating. And I think that over time I had to realize that, and even though they're calling me today and please forgive me and I'm sorry and, I love you, I want you back, I honestly believe that they're not truly sorry, and I believe that they want me back for all the wrong reasons. Like I was a different person at that time. I think being in a place where you don't love yourself, you will allow certain things to occur. And so what they miss is having somebody to run over. What they miss is, having sort of a doormat and a woman that will sort of play wifey without the actual title. And I believe that I got so caught up in wanting to be someone's wife that circumvented, being in a healthy relationship. And so I kept going back to situations and, 10 years of this back and forthness with the last guy, because he would dangle that carrot over me of wanting to be, my husband. And that was important to me, but it was important to me for all the wrong reasons, just wanting to carry that title. And so I got to a point where I was fed up with me, allowing those type of situations to come into my life for that reason. And so I had to turn around and say, not that I don't want to be married, but because I allowed those men to be first in my life and not God,
right?
That's why those situations happen to me, in my opinion. Those situations occurred, and I stayed in those situations for way too long because I put that man first instead of putting God first.
That's good. Let's pause for a quick second. Anybody have any questions or comments on what they've heard about her story and the pictures and this situation? I unmuted everybody, so you're free to speak.
This is Stacey. I have a question for you. So I'm sorry about my dog. So I'm listening to you talk, and you talk about basically different guy but almost same body or a similar relationship. My question is, at what point did you give yourself a break before you went to the next relationship? And, like, how long were you in these relationships?
Yeah. That was part of the problem, Stacey. Honestly, I define being in a relationship as something that was required. I grew up with all brothers, and so my mindset was, because my brothers would they were kind of my father figure for a lot of years because my father was in prison most of my life. So their perception was you're a whore if you sleep around. And so it was always important to me to be in a relationship because then I could, in my mind, be free to have sex and not be looked at as a whore. So I stayed in relationships because, honestly, a lot of the immaturity was, in enjoying to have sex and getting caught up in relationships for that reason, falling in lust and not in love. And so I stayed in a lot of those situations.
So you never really had time to heal.
Say that again, Timothy.
So you never really had time to heal.
I never really had time to heal because I went from one relationship to the next. One relationship was 8 years, one was 6. The last relationship was 10 years. So I went from one relationship to the next. So it took these 5 years that I've been single to really take the time to look at all of those situations. And I actually took the time to call every last one of my exes and ask them what they love most about me and what they dislike most about me. And
why would you call them and ask them that? I mean, why would you ask them that? Not people who may know the current you and know what's going on in your life now. Why would you ask them from your past, a person who you may not even be 5 years ago?
Well, I did that during my healing process over that last 5 years. I wanted to make sure that I knew for a fact, it's easy to say he did this to me and he did that to me. I got to a point where I wanted to look at what I was doing to myself, and I wanted to look at what I was doing positively and negatively in those relationships, and so that I could find a way to change that pattern. Because I was like Stacey said, I was picking the same type of guys for a reason. I was attracted to that same type of guy for a reason. I was jumping from relationship to relationship for a reason, and so I felt like it was important in order for me to break that pattern to really look at why I was doing those things and what was going on with me.
Okay, Stacey had another question.
I did. So I wanted to ask you, did you feel like you were trying to fill a void that you might have had from an absent father with being with these men?
Absolutely. I think my mother would totally agree with that because she would say that, like my kid's father, she says, is just like my daddy. And so, I think that I was attracted to, men with that kind of charisma, perhaps. For that reason, but most importantly, there's a certain level of love that a young lady needs, and coming up, certain things that a mom can give a child, and there's most certainly something that a father needs to give to a child, and having that unconditional love from your father is just one of those things that's priceless. And so even though me and my father communicated all those years he was in prison, and he always communicated love to me, he never showed me what that looked like. And so when a guy said he loved me, you know, I took that to heart because he said it. And it wasn't because he said it, he must mean it. Because, you know, we spend time together, or because he spends money on me, he must mean it. And so I put more value at that point in time in my life into words versus action.
You kind of made your own definition of love. Like you say, he buy you stuff, he say it and stuff. And obviously a lot of times sex, you know, you made your own definition of what love is since you didn't have a blueprint from your father. Anybody else have a question for Kim?
Charlie, I just want to tell Kim I applaud her strength for herself and her kids, and I want to send you a hug. That's what I have.
Okay, now y'all both single. Okay. I got both of y'all number. Anybody else want to say anything to Kim or ask a question?
Yes, sir. I joined the conference. My name is Bill.
Okay, Bill.
I joined the conference in progress, and I'm sorry if this question is redundant, but I'd like to know if the guy she's talking about, did she meet him while he was in jail, or was it before he went to jail? And what attracted her to that type of guy?
That's a good question.
I actually left him while I told you he was in his last, maybe the last few weeks of jail when I found out about the pictures. So because I had, you know, I knew he was coming out with nothing at that point because obviously he lost everything when he got locked up. Because I am a good person, I made sure that he had a place still. He just couldn't come home to me. So I went and got him an apartment with some of the money that he had and opened him up his own account, put his money in there, and I released him and his belongings and all his stuff to him and just kind of, you know, started over fresh on my own.
What attracted you to him?
When did you meet him? At what stage did you meet him? Was he already incarcerated when you met him, or?
No, not at all. I met him on a blind date. You know, someone kind of hooked us up together, and it was, you know, it just kind of went from there. From that date, you know, almost it's kind of like, you know, I realized in any situation that, you know, there were warning signs very, very early on in those relationships that I just chose to ignore because, like, immediately after our first date, that blind date, the next morning there was a card in my door with, you know, with the note just telling me, you know, how he enjoyed meeting me, and, you know, it was almost like love at first sight, and you know, he would just do certain things that were just really over the top very early on, that I thought was, oh my gosh, this guy must really like me. And then it got to a point where, oh my gosh, he must really, really love me. And and I really didn't see the warning signs that he must be really, really crazy. So
right.
Yeah.
I mean, you wake up the next day and see a card at your door. I mean,
yeah. So that those things are what attracted me, because we dated without sex for a year. And he was willing to wait. So I thought that really meant that this guy was, you know, the real deal.
Okay. Anybody else have a question for Kim? Comment on the situation? All right. Kim, stick around, we'll come back. And moving on, it's crossing at 10 o'clock. And I appreciate you sharing your story. Really do. And we're going to kind of shift gears here and talk to Nikki. Nikki, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing fine. And yourself?
Good. Glad you have been patiently waiting and listening to the other stories. And I'm looking to find you. Okay. Nikki's 37. She's single. One child. Her child is 11 years old. She's fairly new to Charlotte from ATL. And she is a senior ops specialist at LPL Financial in Charlotte, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Nikki, are you going to tell us about a particular relationship, or what do you want to start? And if you were on the previous call, if you got some feedback on that, you can start there.
Okay, yeah, I was actually on both calls. I took both of the calls as very interesting. I enjoyed them because I like to listen to what men think about women, and what they like and don't like. On the first call was the call that things that they did like. That one was refreshing just to hear. It was a lot of different opinions on there about what, they like to do to women and what women say and all this type stuff. The dislike call kind of hit home for me because I don't remember who said it. They were talking about independent women, how they didn't like that it comes off as being masculine. I've actually heard that in some relationships that I have been in, that I can be headstrong. I am very independent, so I'm used to doing everything on my own. If I am in a relationship with someone, I'm still doing everything on my own. I'm not used to men actually doing things for me. So if you do them for me, I'm looking at you like, okay, is this what you really want to do? Because I'm used to doing everything on my own anyway. So I've heard in a relationship that I was recently in, I would have to say it was my last relationship. I had recently moved here from Atlanta last year, and me and this particular person knew each other from college. We went to Virginia State University, and we actually reconnected online, like an online site. And he stayed in Charlotte, so it kind of like worked out that he was in Charlotte and I was moving here. So we kind of connected a little bit. I kind of felt like he was moving a little fast, in the sense of wanting to, be in a relationship really quick. I like to take my time and let things fall in place. But he wanted to move kind of quickly. I kind of wanted, let him know, let's just push our brakes and just kind of hold off a little bit. But he was real persistent, like, I really want you to be my girlfriend and yada, yada. And that type of stuff doesn't really faze me too much because I like to build friendships before I jump into relationships. So I moved here, staying with him for about 2 weeks while I was working and finding my own place. He became the type of person, we kind of got into a relationship. I wasn't really for it. I did it. I kind of look back on it and say I shouldn't have. Should have seen all of the red flags. I think it was more of a convenience thing because I was relocating here and he was here. So I kind of just jumped into it head first. And he was more of the type that was, I want to say, a passive male, which I don't really run into too much. But he was kind of like in his emotions and feelings more than I was, because it kind of made me feel like I was the male and he was the female. And he actually came out his mouth and said it. He was just like, you make me feel like the roles are reversed, which that kind of threw me off a little bit, dealing with a grown man and he's telling me that. But it was just like, okay. So I stayed with him for a couple of weeks while I was looking for my place. And he got to the point that it was, I guess because I was staying with him, it was more of, you're staying with me, so we're together, so we're going to have sex all the time, whenever I want it, when I want it, whatever. I kind of felt like I was a sex slave in this relationship, which was something that I did not want to do. It was at times that I would like really be in tears because I didn't want to have sex, and he did. And it was just, I didn't have anywhere to go because my apartment wasn't ready. I couldn't go back to Atlanta. I had already moved all my stuff into storage, so I couldn't go back. So he got to the point that it was just always, you don't never agree with me. Why don't you do this? Why don't you say this? Why don't you do that? And I'm the type of person that I say what I want to say. If I don't agree with you, I'm not going to agree with you, regardless if you're my man or not. So it is what it is. I'm not going to just be your yes girl. We're in a relationship, so we're going to have your opinion and mine, and we'll come to an even median or just agree to disagree. But it got to a point that he was starting to go through my phone, which I'm not jealous at any point in a relationship. I don't go to that level of looking through your things. I trust you. But I feel like that he was just so wanting the relationship to be something else than what it was, he started looking through my phone, looking through my iPad, and that was my cutoff point that I just had to go. Like, I couldn't do it. I actually had to move early to my apartment just because it was just, I can't do this. I can't deal with an emotional man that is so much into his feelings that is really throwing me off. So
it's like
that
the invasion
relationship,
of privacy. The invasion of privacy is just kind of, what did it trigger?
yeah, that was the end of it for me, because I feel like females do stuff like that. I don't feel like men are supposed to look through your phone, regardless. If they don't trust you, they don't trust you. Don't look through my phone. Don't look through my stuff. If I don't do it to you, don't do it to me. So at that point, it was just, I have to go. So we got in an argument because I didn't agree with something that he wanted me to agree with, or something I didn't say what he wanted me to say. So, I started packing my stuff and I left. So that was in July of last year, August time frame of last year. And I've been single ever since. And I feel like now just that relationship makes me want so much more from a man. So I feel like now I am at the point right now that I'm just practicing celibacy, because until I get married, because I do not want to I don't want to put myself in a situation where sex is everything in my relationship. I really want to actually love this person, get to know this person for everything outside of intimacy in the bedroom. I feel like that once that happens, that just opens up a whole nother realm of emotions and feelings. And for me, in my situation, relationships have gone to the left when sex has come in, because either way, on either side, somebody gets super attached and the other person don't, and it just throw everything off. So I'm at the point right now that regardless, I'm waiting for God to put me at that point. And the story that Stacey was telling really touched me, because of the fact that she was just relating to the fact that she had to get really close to God. And I'm at that point right now where I'm actually reconnecting my relationship with God, because I want more than what I've been getting in relationships. So that's my story. So that kind of got me to the fed up point of wanting more from a relationship with a man.
Like you said, the inclusion of sex, it does, take one person to the left. Oftentimes people think they can be the side chick or the side man, and, I'm not going to have any feelings, we can do this. And as soon as they start doing it, now they're trying to kill your wife or kill your husband or something like that, or want you to leave them for them. Who has all in the background, but I'm going to try to find you. All right. Anybody got any questions for Nikki?
This is Charlie. I had a question. Sorry about your experience. You said you were in tears at one point because of sex. He didn't rape you, did he?
No. He didn't rape me. It was just that I felt like I was in a situation where I felt like I had to have sex with him because I was staying with him. I didn't have anywhere else to go. So I kind of felt like I'm obligated and I got to have sex with this dude until I have somewhere to go. He didn't rape me at all. But it was at a point that I was so not into the interaction at all, and I was in tears because I did not want to do it, but I felt like I had to just because of the situation.
All right. Now, Nikki, if a young lady is listening and she's on her way to Charlotte in a similar predicament, what route would you tell her to take?
I would actually advise on not staying with someone that you're dealing with in a relationship that you're not super comfortable with living with them. Like, if you never, because me and this person never stayed together. Like, it was really a convenience thing, and it wasn't supposed to go any longer than 2 weeks. My apartment wasn't ready, so it went a little bit longer than that. But I would just advise on having somewhere to actually stay, having, you know, a support system or having somewhere else to go if you do decide to deal with someone and stay with them. Have friends or family or someone else that you can fall back on.
That's good. Mm-hmm. And how's your relationship with the guy today?
You know what's so funny? Because after me and him broke up, me and him still talk, because now I feel like that I'm at a point that I can say what I want to say regardless. Even when I was in that relationship, I can really tell him now really about himself with not feeling guilty at all about anything. To me, I can actually laugh at how he acts, because I'm so over that. I'm so over him, over that situation. And with him, and I explained to him that I was at this point in my life that, you know, that I was going to wait to have sex. And he clearly came out and said that I wasn't going to find anybody, and my luck, just let him know how that goes, because ain't nobody going to wait to have sex until they get married. So because of where he's coming from and the guys that he deals with and his friends, ain't nobody waiting to have sex to marriage. So
it's like you feel at liberty to say what you want to say. When you were living with him, it was like, what, walking on eggshells or something? You really couldn't even express how you really felt?
Exactly. I kind of felt like I had to, because I'm very opinionated on certain things, and knowing that he was so soft into his feelings, that he was just, you know, very emotional, I kind of did hold back a little bit. But now I'm just freely can say whatever I want to say, and then just hang up the phone, or, you know, just not even talk to him, or just laugh it off now, because I don't have to deal with that situation.
Marianne, you just texted me something. What did you say right there?
What did I say? I said manipulation tactics. Nobody's going to want you. No one is going to see you the same. Who's going to want you with all these kids? You know, you'll never meet someone like me. You know, you'll continue to withdraw from sex. Who are you going to think you are? The Virgin Mary. All of those are manipulation tactics.
Exactly. And when he told me that, I just laughed it off, because of the fact that I know his mindset and how he thinks, that if you got to have sex while he's dealing with you. And it was just in one ear and out the other, because I know that it's somebody out there for me that I don't have to have sex with to be in a healthy relationship.
That's true. That is true. Any other comments?
This Charlie, I got a comment. The thing about when I say being a hostage, don't make yourself a hostage, meaning you have to stay with somebody, and so therefore you put up with stuff that you normally wouldn't put up with. And I think Nikki made a comment about how Guy says that independent women are not sexy and stuff like that. But to me, an independent woman is very sexy to me, because then I know more than likely she's interested in me and not me, my ability to supplement her income or any other reasons besides what it should be. And so I don't want any hostages. I want some women who choose to stay or choose to go. So we really got to evaluate our situation ongoing and have contingency plans in case things don't work out, you know?
All right.
Yeah, and I think because I was relocating from Atlanta and coming to a new city, not knowing anyone, I did feel like a hostage, because I didn't have anywhere else to go. So in that situation, if someone was relocating and didn't have everything lined up with their ducks in a row, I would say make sure you have them in a row before you move to a new city where you know no one.
Right. Any other questions or comments for Nikki?
I have a question. Okay. So how was your son? My name is Nancy.
Okay. Go ahead.
Where was your child, the 11-year-old? Where was your child when all of this was happening?
When I relocated to Charlotte, it was during the summer. So she was actually with her father still in Atlanta. So I was actually making sure that I had everything set before I came here for her. Before the school year started, I wanted to have my own place and all of that. So she was actually with her father in Atlanta and not having to deal with any of that. That was my whole plan, was to have everything lined up for her when she was going to come to Charlotte.
Okay. Anything you wanted to add, Nancy?
I'm listening. I missed the first 2 calls, so I'm just listening to these brave women who are scaring the god shit. I don't want to curse. I'm sorry. Who are scaring me.
Yeah.
I had not. I'm 40. I'm single. I have 2 children. I've never been in any of this, so they're just worrying me because I live in Charlotte too, and I moved here from New York, so I haven't had a lot of experience with men in Charlotte. So thank you, ladies, for your for sharing your story.
I was going to say, of course, it could be men anywhere, because I believe the second story was a man in Ohio, if I'm not mistaken, Kim.
That's correct.
Yeah, so it could be a man anywhere. But you said that their stories are scaring you?
Well, my longest relationship was 14 years with the father of my children, and then after that, I kind of been on my own deliberately because I didn't want to get married. So now they're starting to turn into adults, and I'm starting to want to partner up. And so I haven't experienced abuse. I haven't experienced a lot of things. I kind of been sheltered and quiet because I was in a relationship for so long, and then I avoided really partnering up or being vulnerable to someone. So now just hearing these women put themselves out on the line for love and being good women to the men in these situations, and it not being returned, that's what scared me.
Right. I understand. Any other comments or questions for Nikki? You have 5 seconds. Well, Nikki, we thank you for sharing your story. Triggered a lot of conversation, as you can see. Appreciate having you. I'm glad you called in.
You're welcome. I really enjoy these calls, so I don't mind sharing.
Appreciate it. And now we're going to move on to Nautica. Nautica, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Nautica? Nautica is 36. Nautica is 36, a natural hair care specialist, an entrepreneur, and she's single. So Nautica, you've listened to these calls patiently. The previous 3 stories. We're going to start with you.
Okay. Well, to all the 3 ladies that spoke prior to me, I wanted to say that I appreciate you for sharing your stories. I petition the Most High that He comforts all 3 of you and protect all 3 of you in pursuit of your next relationships and any other endeavors that you may have before you. So I did want to start with that. Secondly, to, I guess, answer the question on the floor, what I'm fed up with. I don't think we have all night, but I will say that I'm just fed up with people in general. Particularly, if I wanted to speak about something tonight, it would be the excuse of not being perfect. That is one thing that really aggravates my entire being, because it's something that both women and men say, and oftentimes it's used as an excuse. Now, I am a person that comes from a sales background, so I've been conditioned and developed and groomed in thinking outside the box. Okay. And I'm extremely spiritual. I'm not religious. But in order for someone to be able to say that they're an exception of or something to exclude themselves from, they have to understand or know what it is. So in order to say that, oh, I'm not perfect, then one would have to know what perfection is. Now, with that being said, if you say that I'm not perfect, I don't think it should be used as an excuse. I think it is a point of recognition, And it does give an opportunity not only for the person who's saying it, but the person that's receiving it to say, okay, now that you realize that you're not perfect, what you going to do about it? What's next? And when I deal with people, men and women, but particularly men in this particular conversation, I'm always labeled that I think that I'm perfect, but it's not really that. I think it's that throughout the course of my life, I've had various experiences of my own, but I'm also a person that learns from other people's experiences, much like the women that shared their stories before. I am a conversationalist, so I hear a lot of things, especially being a hairstylist, and I empathize severely with many scenarios that women have been through. A lot of it stems from pride from the man, lack of honesty, and primarily lack of communication. And I think a lot of it is from the standpoint of men think that because we're the weaker vessel or whatever the case may be, we may not be strong enough to handle the so-called truth. And I would petition that we're a lot stronger than most people think in general, because life experiences make us who we are. And I believe that women tend to be a little bit more attentive to the male's nature, you know, trying to understand who he is, where he come from, where he's trying to go, what he wants, what we can do to help, and all that kind of stuff, where men oftentimes can be wrapped up in career, wrapped up in family, wrapped up in self.
That can go both ways, though, can it? It just depends on the person. Yeah.
It can, but I'm just speaking in general, the nature of the being. And then, of course, you do have the man that is attentive. They are very rare. Or in some instances, I think it's a matter of what phase you catch them in, you know, because I see men that get hurt just like we do as women, and I personally don't believe they recover as fast as we do. A lot of times, those images or whatever, and I think one of the ladies prior to me was a victim of something like that, where the man has harbored such hard feelings towards a female, whether it be his mom, sister, aunt, cousin, previous relationship, and instead of using those experiences as a point of measure to be able to say, okay, well, if I see some resemblance here, then I might need to take a closer look. But instead, crippling the new person based off of these preconceived notions or prior experiences that they had. I think it can happen on both sides.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that because a lot of men move on oftentimes too fast. It seems to be sometimes men move on a lot faster than women. And sometimes it's just like to rebound and move on and just forget everything that happened, even though, of course, it ain't going to really work out that way.
And see, and I think that's the difference. Like, men tend to move on faster, but I don't think they recover faster in terms of the hurt or disappointment or what have you. I have my theory on why that is, but you know, it's very interesting to see and hear both sides of the spectrum. But I think I would say I would lean more towards the communication factor. I don't really think people in general, men more so, in my opinion, unless they've been developed and understand at some point in time in their life that communication is very much two-sided. The whole point of communication is not just for you to be heard, but it's also for the person who's hearing you to understand you and possibly even agree with you or have the opportunity to disagree with you. But it gives you a opportunity to not only share what you feel or want or need, but it gives the person an opportunity to see where you are. And some people just like to talk, to hear themselves, just say, well, I said it, like drop the mic and walk off. You don't really need to say anything back to me or whatever the case may be. And I don't think that's a fair mindset. And then I also think that people tend to, and I hate to say it, I feel like it's more so from the men's side. I'm not going to speak so much from the woman because I'm not that type of woman, and I don't know too many women like what I'm about to mention, where men tend to offer up unnecessary information.
Are you? Cause let me say this, because I personally hate to be put in the box when people say, "Man, this."
I know.
So you saying like the men you know, the men
no,
you know?
I'm gonna say. No. I preface it by saying unless they've been groomed or have developed themselves to not be this. I'm just speaking in general that oftentimes when sharing information, because I'm single and I actually like being single, I think it has its benefits and it has its pros and cons. You know what I mean? Yeah. But given the position I'm in, I don't have to settle. And because I know the Most High the way I know the Most High, He's already created a blueprint of what my man is supposed to look like, minimum. Anything else is pretty much my own stuff. How tall he need to be, how good he needs to look, how well he needs to smell, dress, and all that kind of stuff. But he already has a blueprint. Huh?
So you're talking more so that the blueprint that you're speaking of is internal.
Correct. And what I think, going back to the communication piece, is that sometimes information that's shared can be more of a hindrance to a relationship than being edifying. Yes, we want to share our experiences, to say, well, this is where I've been or what have you, but some details can be spared.
Can you give me some examples of what you mean? What do you mean?
I'll give you plenty of examples. Let's see. Men asking a woman how many people she's been with. I don't think if I told you I've been with 5 or 500 that if anything, either one of us could do about at this stage of the game. And then on top of that, I don't think there's a whole lot that knowing that is going to provide a benefit to the existing relationship. Because if the 5 or 500 men were that important, then what would be the need for you? You see what I'm saying?
So what about maybe somebody, what about if it's somebody like he knows? Do you think that's important?
Then you ask about that.
I mean, but I'm just saying he don't know.
But you can,
yeah.
But I'm saying that would be something that obviously we would one of us, if not both of us, would have to know that is the case. And of course, if it is, then that might be worth discussing. You know what I mean? Especially if that is somebody that's in close realms of either one of us, in terms of possibly running into or something like that. But just in general, no. Or even men sharing how many people they've been with, or just things that they might have preferred or liked, or, just things that I don't think that would be edifying. It's not much, it doesn't have any potential of having a positive effect on the current relationship, whatever it is.
Let me ask you. You said something initially about not being perfect, because I'm the first to say I'm not. But were you saying that as people who use it as an excuse, or people who just say it, period? Because are you saying that we are perfect? I mean, what can you elaborate on that part? Because I just sent out something to go ahead.
Oh, did you? Okay. No, I'm particularly speaking about people that use it as an excuse to not do anything better. You know what I mean? Where you say, I didn't really like the way you treated me we've had this conversation before, thought we had an understanding. I'm just giving a scenario. And the response, well, I'm not perfect. I mean, what do you want me to do about it? Like, okay. I knew that. You been knew that. So what we going to do about it? What's next? Some people like to stop there. Okay, I've given my excuse, and then that's it.
Okay.
You
got 2 questions came in for you, Nautica. Hold on a second.
Go right ahead.
Somebody asked, who was that said, is she saying, can you go ahead and ask your question? Two of you.
So my question was, when you say people overshare, are you saying you want a relationship without fully knowing who someone is, or you just want them to hide parts of them or not know who you are before they get in a relationship?
No, I believe that you should share things that will be pertinent to the development of the relationship.
But what I guess my question is, if that's important for him to know, why is that? Like, because people come to the table with different factors and things that are important to them.
I agree.
So I'm curious as to what, like, when you said too much information, I thought you meant like you don't want to know everything. That's why I asked.
Well, some things you don't need to know. And I mean, any man I've ever known, they wholeheartedly believe that. It's kind of like, don't let the right hand know what the left hand doing, or something to that effect. I'm just speaking in terms of. Well, no, I'm just speaking in terms of things that's not going to be edifying to the relationship, whether it's positive or negative.
It's important to them. I guess the reason why I'm saying is, if someone asks a question, it's because it's important to them. You may not want to answer it because you don't see the relevance, but it means something to the person who asked the question.
I would have to know what the relevancy would be, because see, then the question would be, okay, you want to know. I'm gonna just use that as an example, because I was in a relationship like that, where, okay, if you want to know that, hey, are you willing or capable of sharing your number? Oftentimes the answer is no. Okay, so I'm fair. If you can't, I'm not. Okay, and then secondly, once I provide you with this information, where does that put you mentally? You see what I'm saying? Because oftentimes people try to find things to eliminate a person.
But that's
you understand
fine.
What I'm saying? And that is fine.
Yeah, like, if someone's not the person for you, why delay giving them that?
Exactly.
That's why I'm like, for me, I ask dudes up front before I give my number, married, children, or, are you living with someone? And before I even let you touch me, I want to know the last time you had sex and who was it with. Like, I'm going to ask questions because it's relevant. If he says, well, you don't need to know that, well, okay, cool, but I'm going to be over there. So if we're going to, I just don't.
And it's like, how can you ask a question and not be prepared to answer it yourself? That's pretty weird and stupid to me.
Yeah,
what I'm hearing is that she doesn't want the consequences of the answer more than she doesn't feel the answer.
No, it's not so much that. No, it's not so much that. I'm just saying in general, because it's different when you're in the phase of getting to know someone, and then it's a difference when you're already there. You understand what I'm saying? Because the question that you're proposing to me is, before we get into or go towards next, this is what I need to know. I understand that wholeheartedly, because you're in the process of elimination. I get that all day long. But not post we in the relationship, we already doing this thing, and you want to know things that you probably should have asked from the beginning.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying. I just don't agree. That's all.
Hey, this Charlie, can I jump in there?
Hold on, Charlie.
That's fine.
Kwame sent a text too.
Okay.
Kwame, go ahead. Go ahead, brother. You got the floor. Let me see what his text said. I don't know what he's doing. In the meantime, Charlie, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I agree with her, and that people have to earn the privilege of your information. And two, a lot of people look for things to judge others on. If you just go to judge me, then okay, I maybe don't need to be that close to you or whatever. So yeah, people need to earn their privileges.
Okay.
Nah. Hello, Kim.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? I'm sorry. My question was just what was unnecessary information, and basically she was answering. That's I was just trying to figure out. What do men offer? That's what I'm saying. What kind of information do men usually offer? Like, because usually most of the time we supposedly are kind of like secretive. We're like the CIA when it comes to relationships, and I understand that communication is kind of lacking on our part most of the time.
Right.
That's why I was surprised. Like you saying, well, I don't want to hear it. I'm like, wow, okay, that's interesting. That's
right. I'll give you an example. If I'm having a conversation with you, and I'm a person that has, I use the friend term just to generalize associates, acquaintances, or what have you, of both sexes, but primarily male. And that's just because I tend to get along with them a little bit better, because I don't deal with a lot of the emotional factors when it comes to them. But every time I open my mouth about a friend of mine, right, I don't need it to be qualified is this someone you've had prior relations or relationship with, if that's not the point of the conversation. Much like if every time you open your mouth about a female, I'm not going to ask you, have you slept with her? Were you in a relationship with her? Because that's not the point of the conversation. You have some people that will say, hey, I'm talking about Karen, and she used to be my girlfriend when I was 21. Ain't nobody asked you all that. Just say what you have to say about it.
Okay, I see what you're saying now, but we touched on this on the last call. In regards to you was on the first call, you was on the second one. In regards to you being in a relationship and you got somebody you used to bang and you still in close proximity and dealing with this person. Everybody has their ways of dealing with relationships, but me personally, I don't see that as being cool. And I'm in a relationship and I got dealings with a woman I used to bang. That's just, for me, that's just a closed chapter, closed door. I've moved on, and she's not gonna have it either. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If I found out,
I understand.
If I found out, she's gonna be able to go ahead and have more time to talk to him. You feel what I'm saying? So,
right. I can understand that because everyone has their preference in terms of the things that make them okay or not okay.
Right.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be a present day situation. But I don't necessarily need the status of that person qualified every time you make mention of someone new, because
Understood.
If you know 1,000 people, do I really want to know every time you bring up? I don't.
Right. Now, Kim,
you know what I mean?
Question.
Okay, go ahead.
Kim?
Yes.
You just texted something? You said you
get
what she told you.
I just really had a comment, not really a question. I just wanted to share. I think we as individuals have to be careful of the kind of baggage that we pick up along the way. And I guess, from what I can gather, I certainly agree with her to some extent, and in the sense that I understand why she's very cautious, or why, about people asking certain questions. But I guess it would appear to me that she's dealt with certain situations that have sort of made her guarded in those type of situations where people are asking questions, and maybe she's been burned about somebody taking information and using it against you. I've certainly experienced that as well, but I think when we go into another situation trying to get to know someone new, if we're really truly prepared and ready to go on to a new situation, then we have to do that with an open mind and not be sort of judgmental on what we've experienced in the past. And so it's just an indication of how we can carry baggage into the next situation.
And I think Charlie touched on it too. Charlie touched on it, and he said you have to, basically it's levels to it. You know what I'm saying? Not when I first meet, but if it begins to steer serious, that's when the serious questions come about. You know what I mean? You're not going to go into a engagement or from dating. Okay, from dating, and now we're talking about engagement and marriage. The questions get serious. They should get deeper, and not after the type thing. So there are levels. So if I first meet you, all of that stuff is not your business. But if it gets serious, Everything should be your business. I shouldn't have anything to hide. Whether I agree that you should hear and want to do it or not, the fact that you asked and you plan to spend the rest of your life with me, I don't need to be walking around feeling like you hiding something or I'm hiding something from you. It should be an open book, glass, you know? So that's just my take.
And I see the point that everyone's making. And of course, I'm in my position, like I said, I operate with a fair mindset, so I always try to take into consideration where the other person is coming from. And before I just give an answer or say I'm not going to, I like to know why. You know what I mean? Because I have, just like you have the liberty to ask the question, I have the right to give you an answer. And I'd rather not lie to you than just say, you know, whatever that might be pleasing to you, versus just saying, I don't think that would be edifying or beneficial to the relationship unless you can help me understand why. And then what you're going to do with the information. And I think that's just fair, because if I have to open myself up, then I need to know what I'm going to be subjected to as a result of that. And if it's that important, then we have the right to be like, you know what? If this is a deal breaker, deal broke. Bye-bye.
Nikki, you had a comment you said. You did. Hold on. Nikki said, yeah, she had a comment.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Nikki.
I had a comment because what Nadia said it kind of hit home with me as well, because when you meet someone, a lot of times they do ask you a lot of questions. Of course, you want to know things about them. I've run into meeting people or meeting guys that when they ask you a question and you give them the answer, they're not ready for it, or they can't handle what you're going to say. So it's like you were saying about how many people you slept with. Okay, so yeah, if I told you I slept with 50 guys, are you going to run the other way? Because yours is probably double mine, if anything. So
but he has the right to not want that. Like, that's the problem.
Exactly.
And
I agree. I agree with that, because I feel like that you give
so that someone don't have a choice. That's why. That's what I'm hearing.
And now I don't think you should withhold information. Tell them if they ask the question, and if they can't handle what you give them, then that's on them. Because my situation, I actually have run into guys because in my past in college, I have messed with females in my past. Some guys can't handle that. Like, if I tell them that I've messed with females in my past, they feel like, oh my God, I'm actually up against guys and girls. Like, if I'm messing with you, I got to deal with a female and a male. But if I tell you that was almost 15 years ago, you're still looking at me side eye. Like, so you like to go to the strip club? Why do you like to go to the strip club? Because I like to go. I mean, I'm not going to stop going because you don't agree with it. But some guys just can't handle that. Even if you do let them know, yeah, this was something that was in my past, I'm not engaging in that right now. That's not what I'm doing. But, I mean, it just depends on who you're dealing with. Some people can take it, some people can't. It just depends on the actual person.
No, you're right. People ask questions that they can't even handle. And again, if it ain't their business at that time, whether they can handle it or not, I'm probably just not. It ain't your business to know. I just met you. You know, ask me in about 2 months or something, 2 years, so depending on our relationship.
Correct. I mean, because sometimes even if you say it's none of their business, you know, it could be a conversation piece. You know, because oftentimes they're not at liberty to say what their situation is either, you know, in lieu of the possibility of us being like, oh, or what have you. So, I mean, I think it's just a matter of qualifying what do I stand to face once I deliver that to you. Are you going to reciprocate? Because there's not a lot of reciprocity that happens in many relationships, whether it's male, female, friends, amongst friends. You know, oftentimes there's someone giving more, or not recognizing where the difference is because we are different people. But a lot of people like to get and give nothing. And with that being said, you have the right to qualify what you're up against once you share, because you're asking about my background, whether it is,
Question under
whether it's positive or negative.
question. If you ask, so if a man, you ask a man how many children he has, he said, I don't want to answer. Does he have that?
I didn't hear you.
If a man asks you if you ask a man how many children he has, and he tells you, I don't want to tell you, and you find out he's that woman on Ayana, whatever her name is, and he got 30, and you done married him. You know what I'm saying? So he has the right to not tell you that.
Right. I would say he has the right, absolutely. But then he also has the right to deal with once I find out, because you're not going to get away from that. That's still something that's present. We're talking about something that no longer exists, something that's past. That's done and over with. Now, if I'm still into, we'll just say, because I'm not, but if I was into, what do they call those little houses where you just go and do? If I was into that once upon a time, but I still am, that's a current situation. But if you're talking about something that's past and it no longer affects or in present day, that's one thing. But your kids are present. They could be like, hey, I need to come live with you because something happened with mommy. So
Okay,
I would think that would be pertinent.
I hear you. So I
at some point in time, I'm just saying.
I was going to ask any other women, do y'all think a man can hold back how many kids he has at any time?
No.
I don't think that's fair.
No.
No.
All here is no.
No,
you gotta
no.
Okay.
I'm a huge proponent of transparency. When I say huge, because if I want to be accepted, I want to be accepted fully. Before I know what I eat, I want to know what's in it. I want to know. And it's not a judgment. It's not an assessment. But it is something, can I deal with this person? Can I manage my expectations because I know what I'm dealing with? So I don't have a problem. I have the card on my nightstand. If you want to know how many people I slept with, go check the nightstand. I don't have a problem with it.
Wow.
I'm sorry, who was that speaking?
Nancy.
You know what? I admire you. I really do. Because the position that I come from is this. What most people, when they ask a question, there's an agenda. 50-50 chance. There's a 50-50 chance that you may say something that I'm okay with and something that I probably will hate. But once you ask that question, you expose yourself to the possibility of not only hearing something that you really hope to hear, but something that you probably don't even expect. Now, if you are a person that says, I'm cool, and I'm open once I answered it, when I ask this question, I'm cool with no matter what you tell me. I'm prepared. That's a wonderful individual, but that's not most human beings. So that's why I say I need to know, what do I stand to face once? Because if this is a deal breaker, I'm fine with that, because at that point, it's still left to the number, because you might be okay with 10. You might not be okay with 100. You know what I'm saying?
And outside of sex, it could be anything, but from a man's point of view, and it could be a woman too, certain questions can decide if I even want to proceed in this thing. I don't want to get deeper and then find out it's something that is a deal breaker. I done wasted my time. You done got your emotions involved. You done spent, finances or whatever. So some questions just could be determined even if I want to pursue something with you.
Well, the other thing about it is I value vulnerability. Someone who is, men can be vulnerable, women can be vulnerable, children are vulnerable. But someone who is unwilling to be vulnerable frightens me, because it's just, I feel like you don't have the security and confidence in who you are and what you have been through to be your present person. So if I ask for your past, sometimes I just want to value who you are because I don't have that perspective. Sometimes I want to commend you, like, okay, like if I'm making a decision whether this person could be in my life or not, I'm like, you know what? The way he looked at his participation in a situation makes me have more respect for him. But if he withholds information from me and he doesn't let me have access to his perspective, his growth, and he's unwilling to be vulnerable, that person I don't think is mature enough to be in a relationship.
I agree.
Can I jump in that? It's Charlie again.
Was that you just text me?
No, it wasn't me. I'm just saying that any information you give to somebody or whatever you share is a privilege, and it needs to be recognized as that. And so you need to earn whatever privilege you are extended. So they need to evaluate your personality as you get to know each other, and then start sharing like that.
Can I say something really quick?
Yeah. Whoever's from the Phoenix, Arizona, is that you? Just text me. Go ahead and ask your question after this person, please.
No, this is Dawn. I just texted you.
Okay.
I think a lot of questions, because me, myself, I get asked a lot of questions regarding my past. I think for a number of reasons. And when it becomes a part of like the dating scene or just meeting someone, I just learned to, because I'm so honest with myself and I'm not ashamed of like anything that I've done. I have like no regrets, that I'm actually comfortable with sharing like pretty much anything. I'm an open book. And the only reason that I am that way is because the results that I've gotten, and the results that I have gotten in people in general is that by me being Dawn, just giving someone Dawn, I get them. You understand what I'm saying? Because I noticed that, and I do a lot of, I'm not gonna lie, I did a lot of testing, and I just try things out, by not releasing certain information or not telling at that time. But I noticed that the person became reserved. Like, okay, I need to know these kind of things. And what I did notice is that a lot of times it would come out that they're asking these questions due to past experiences. You know what I'm saying? Or perfect example, I'm a single mother. I have 2 girls. And the way I live my life and the way I raise my kids, I would say it's a little different, but I don't care. It is what it is. And I get asked a lot, like, do you have baby daddy drama? Like, where's the kid's father? And and they, I don't care about sharing that. That doesn't bother me because I feel like, well, no, I don't have drama, or and this is how we have to work for it to come to this. It wasn't always like this civil and everything. And another thing, I'm from California, so like, my life, my past is really in California. You know what I'm saying? So it's just me and my family's out here or whatever, but it's me and my kids. Their father is back home in Cali. So I grant that only because I feel that sometimes it kind of eases people a little bit. Now, when it comes to the number thing and when it comes to the personal questions, like, I ain't gonna lie, we're all grown here. I get asked, the position, what, and if I ain't gonna lie, sometimes I get guys that say that are like, oh, you're like nasty, or like, oh, that's too much. Well, dude, don't ask me then. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you ask me a question, you're asking me for a reason, right? So, okay, dude, I'm going to tell you straight up, and I'm going to be honest about it. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. I've come to the point in time in my life where, like, I'm really comfortable with Dawn. I am okay the way I turned out. No lie. God is in, when I say the center, forefront, in the back, like, he is my all. Like, seriously, when you come to that grip and being like honest and living in yourself and living for God, and you exude that, it's like whatever you tell anyone, it's not gonna hurt you or them anyway. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? So the only reason why I am so adamant and so proactive about being like an open book is only because of the results I've gotten.
Okay. Carnita, thank you, Don, for that. Carnita, you were the Phoenix. Can you go ahead and make your comment, please?
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, so what I text you and my question, and response to all this was 9 times out of 10 when people lie, it's for selfish intent. It's because they're trying to avoid a consequence or they're trying to postpone something that's uncomfortable or unfavorable for them. For an instance, like if I meet a guy who's involved with somebody and he doesn't disclose that up front, it's because he doesn't want to leave it to chance that if he tells you I'm involved with somebody but I like you, that you might actually say, you know, well, that's all well and good, but I choose not to be with somebody who's already involved or married to somebody. So he doesn't want to leave it to chance that you're not going to choose him. So he takes away that choice by and basically displaces the discomfort of rejection by lying. And it's because people don't want to deal with the consequences of whatever it is, a question, a choice, or whatever.
Right. I hear you. Nautica, you heard the feedback. This is your section. What's your take on all this?
It's very interesting, the feedback. I appreciate all of it. And the funny thing is that I agree with pretty much where everyone stands on it. I just think that it is a personal entitlement. If I had to say in terms of pertinent information to me is things that could affect us today. Because anything that we've experienced in the past, it could affect us currently, but there's also things that do not. And of course, with that being said, just as much as someone has the liberty to ask the question, the other person is also at liberty to give whatever answer that they're comfortable with. And then the cards lay how they may at that point. And of course, most people have to be okay with whatever their decision is at that point. Because sometimes people are not as adamant about the question that they ask. You know, sometimes they just put stuff out there just to see if you're going to do, you know. I mean, and there's people that do that not just with that, but other things as well. Oh, I just asked this to see what you was going to say. Or I just asked to see what you was going to do or how you was going to react. And I'm really not one of those people you could toy with, but it happens, you know. It happens. And, of course, I think, like I said, everyone has the right to handle every situation as they see fit.
I appreciate that. Any other comments or questions about, or to Nautica? Any questions directly to Nautica?
Mm-hmm. Tim, can you hear me?
I can. Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, that basically that's kind of the crux of it. I was trying to get back on, and I kind of understood what was happening, because this that type of situation would happen with my ex-wife, whereas I was trying to figure out, you know, I hear the question, and usually about eight times out of 10 she already knew the answer, but she's going to see how I'll answer. So I'll play the game back, like, you know, trying to figure out, okay, where's this question coming from? Why are you asking me this question? What's this about? What's this got to do? And you know, that would go through my mind instead of just answering the question, because I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. So, and then I sometimes I'll blame that. You know, why are you asking me this question? You know, why are you asking me this question? Because I want to know. No, there's a reason that you were asking this question. Right. You know what you. And so those are the games that I was talking about. Somebody, you know that men dislike. Now I'll just say this was particularly with my my ex-wife, because again, there are times where the way I took it was because there are times where I would talk with her and tell her things, and then we have another conversation and says, well, don't you remember that I told you that? And she would say no. I said, come on, we talked about this. And the thing about it, because again, and this is particular with her, because my kids even say this too. She has selective memory. She good at when it comes to money, boy, she wise as an owl. But anything else, man, she forgetful. Forgetful as Frank, man, as Whippy, man. It's like, come on, man, we talked about this mess. But the fact of the matter is, I just hate these games sometimes. Some women play, not all women, but some women play when more times than not they already know the answer to the question.
Anybody want to comment to Kwame about what he just said? Any lady? Okay. Nautica, you were on the first call. Do you remember anything about that call that you may didn't like? We want to hear not just what people like, what you don't like. You know, we're open. I'm not scared to hear it. So you were on the first call. Mm-hmm.
What I liked and didn't like. I just liked being on the call, to be honest. I think it really gave the men an opportunity to share their position on the various experiences that they encountered, and I felt privileged because a lot of times us as women, unless we have male friends that will share the insight on the male's brain in their positions on certain subject matters, we don't know. And I guess it kind of helps to some degree if we do know, because it'll kind of give us a point of gauge, you know, when we get involved or engage in conversations with them. I mean, the whole call was good. I liked the differences in all of their points of view. I don't think I had a problem with anything anybody said, you know, because they're entitled to feel how they feel.
Appreciate it. You might feel a little different about the second call, so definitely check it out. We have that download available.
Okay.
Any more comments or questions? Anybody before we close this call out? 5 seconds. Okay, well, I want y'all to do something. Next week, I haven't decided a title for a call. It's going to be on next Tuesday because I'll be working Wednesday. So we're going to do it on Tuesday. If y'all have a nice topic, please text that to me tonight, and I'll put that up. I'll go through and something that's trigger, and we'll go ahead and put that up. So if you got an idea for a topic for next week, please text that to me. We thank everybody for sharing their stories. We thank everybody for their comments, feedback, and appreciate y'all for making these calls a success. Thank you so much. And we're going to close this out just like that. So all y'all have a good night. Charlotte Execs. And see you next week. Hopefully.
Good night. All right.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night, y'all.
This call